And so he is also in the Lion King, the festival of the Lion King, and he is Simba. Yes, he got the singing from me, y'all. He got that from his mother. I'll take all the credit for that. But he's traveled the world and has done so much, and we're going to talk about that. So let me bring them right on in. None other than Miss Laura and Mr. Dante. Welcome to Moving Matters.
Um,
This is live TV. You could talk. You can actually, you-
we know we're just letting you do your thing.
So, without further ado, I want to talk to the two of you about being young, gifted, black, and abroad. And I know all of those separate from itself is a challenge. But when you all are in another country and it's got to be all rolled up together, I know that that's a little bit different. So, either one of you, let's start ladies first. So, Miss Laura, you are from Birmingham, correct?
Yes, I am. Yes.
All right. And so you have a different cultural difference, and here you are in Hong Kong. Tell us about being a young black woman, talented, gifted, in a very prominent and renowned show. Talk to us.
I absolutely love it. I embrace everything that comes with it. I don't try and stand out, if you know what I mean. I blend and I fit into my surroundings. So yeah, I'm absolutely enjoying my time here in Hong Kong. I find it very similar to the UK, so I do feel very much at home. The only difference is obviously there's not many of us, but when you do see someone, you're like, yes. I'm absolutely enjoying it out here, and I'm just really blessed and lucky to be in this position that I'm in right now.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we're glad you're there. So Dante, I know, you've been to several different countries and you've been, traveling on the seas and now, you're in Hong Kong. Talk to us about some of the differences that you're experiencing and have experienced having such a journey thus far.
Well, I would say this is the first time. Not I would say this is the first time I've lived abroad. The boat was different because when you're on a boat, you have 65 different nationalities that are all coming together to create this new sort of culture, and that was the culture of whatever that boat was. It would change and morph depending on where you were in the world. But now to come and be completely immersed in a singular culture is probably the most jarring experience because I visited here many years ago and it felt nice and it felt cool because it was new and it was different and kind of the same. But then you come in
Hmm.
and you live here and it is more of a shock than you realize because while it is very similar to the English culture that was once the colonizers of this particular part of the world, the influence is still quite heavily Chinese. So it's learning to adapt to the traditional Chinese mindset and assimilate into that, as well as the new adopted emulation of the English culture. And then
Hmm.
where do I fit into that as a black guy in a country that does not exactly celebrate African American or any sort of African descent for that matter? So unlike everywhere else in the world, there is no like pride in our color besides what we emanate. There's no one that's celebrating us for us. Besides, like, you'll see somebody with cornrows or you'll see somebody with dreadlocks, and you're like, that's nice. Yeah. So it's more an emulation of the cultures that we see rather than anything else.
Okay. So having said that, and either one of you can jump in or tag team off of each other with this. That I know the dating world because Laura, you said that it's small numbers. Do you
Yes.
find that dating is difficult? And why are you guys laughing at me?
I have stories for days about dating out here in Hong Kong. It is difficult. It is so difficult. Obviously, I have a preference, and there's not that many. And then the ones that I do find, I feel like it's just a copy and paste. They're all exactly the same.
Oh wow.
I'm like, is there no diversity? Is nobody different? But yes, it's been very difficult. And then being an expat, I don't know how long I'm going to be here, so I want to settle down, so to speak. And then in 2 weeks, I'm like, oh, by the way, I've got to go now. So it has been quite difficult, very difficult. But you know, I have many stories to tell.
You said that word several times. Difficult, very difficult. And Dante, what about you?
I would say that the bare bones fact of it is, for other Black people that we find, they're looking for an experience outside of their culture, because a lot of times people aren't in Hong Kong for very long. They're here for a couple of years at most, and then they go back to their respective countries. So no one comes here with the mindset of being like, I want to find my forever partner. That's very rare. Of the expat community, the locals, if they like you, they expect you to get married within the next week. So
wait, say that again. They expect what?
To be married within a very short amount of time. I mean, like a year at most. That's the culture here. But I was gonna say the hard part of that is when you run into whether they're more Western or they are from Hong Kong, or they're from Hong Kong, lived abroad, and came back to Hong Kong. When it comes to being a dark-skinned person, we are usually put into a box or category or fetishized. So it's very hard, because either they see, they're like, oh, you must be from Africa, and I'm like, I'm actually from Chicago. I'm not sure how you cannot hear the difference in our voices, which Laura can talk more about, because they can't tell where we're from. They don't recognize the accents, so they always think that we're from the same place. And I'm like, how did you ever?
Oh, is that one of those all Black people alike kind of thing? So we must all be from the same place.
Yeah,
essentially yes.
So how does that play with you all? You know, because everybody, especially now because of the pandemic, and we're going to get into that a little bit and talk about how you all deal with it, because you're the epicenter, or you're near the epicenter of where, you know, it broke out. However, you know, you're from two different countries dealing with it as their culture is, as their government is, as your corporation, you know, requires you guys to do and everything. But I'm going to get into that a little bit more later. But when you're in another country, we talk about the dating thing. How does that play in your mind without, you know, does it create this loneliness, or do you all have like a friend circle that you all kind of keep each other, you know, balanced? And how do you all handle that? Because it's difficult anyway, but when you're in another country and you can't just get on a plane and come home, how are you all processing that part? Especially because you got a job to do, so you got to be on the job while you're dealing with everything else, plus life period, and being young and all of that. Talk to us about that.
There's a lot of things there. To be fair, I got to Dante about everything. We talk about every single thing. He knows about all my bad dating experiences and everything that's going on. So in that sense, I think we're lucky that we have each other to be able to spark confidence, to be able to talk to. But it is difficult. You know, there are times where you wish you could just jump on the plane and go home just to refresh and just to center yourself and then come back and do the job. But literally everyone is in the same boat. We're all here. We're all stuck here. And we just got each other really at the end of the day. But then you've got to take that time for yourself as well. As much as I love everybody here, and we do spend a lot of time together, you then need to take your own time to just be still and to gather your own thoughts, and then just come back and just, do what you're actually here to do, which is perform.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dante, how do you find the balance between what do you do to keep yourself centered and sane, I guess I can say?
Well, it obviously has to change depending on where you are. So when I'm at home in the States, where I'm actually like at the house, or when I was living in Florida, I find working with my hands to be the most zenning experience, to just reground me in a way. Because it's analytical, it's facts, it's logical. So angles, numbers, screws, hammers, everything just makes more sense. And I'm like, all right, I know exactly what I'm doing, but yet it's still artistic. So it is the way that I center myself when I'm at home. But when you're in a place like this, where space is a commodity, I can't just go and grab tools and do this in my hotel room. That's not going to happen. And then once I build some, where the heck am I going to put it? So it's very trying, because it is things have to change. So I would say that finding those things has become the new discovery of how I can center myself, is searching for those things. So Hong Kong has lots of different types of things. The hiking here is superb. However, I hate hiking. I hate being sweaty. I hate getting to the top of a mountain. I'm out of breath and there's no oxygen. I don't like that feeling. It's not fun.
Wow.
But one thing I have noticed here is the food culture is insanely cool. So while I'm not the biggest fan of Cantonese food or Chinese food or really any Asian food besides Japanese food as in general, there's lots of other options here. And for the past year, Laura and I have just been like sort of knocking restaurants off of our lists and just sort of like making that like a destination thing. It's like, all right, well, Tuesday we'll go and we'll try this new restaurant. It's probably gonna be crap, but hey, who cares? We'll do it together, and if it's bad, we'll just find another place. And that's that. And then separately, I would say music, recording music. Now I'm listening to different producers' ideas of how they do their music to then inform me of like now like give me direction on a technical side. And then of course video games and movies. They're always a good going.
Okay. So you're both singers. You're both a part of the same cast, and so even though you're on land, do you find that that's still a small community? And what's the interaction like? Uh, what's the motivating thing for each of you that gets you in that frame of mind to perform and to do your job in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of the many cultures, in the midst of being in another country, in the midst of knowing that, there are all of these different, no pun intended, you guys are at Disney. How do you find this? Tell me if you're actually doing this though. Are you separating what you do from who you are in the midst of all of those things that I just said? Or is it just that you put that actor's face on, you do it, and then when you come out of it, it's like, woof. Tell me about that. What's your experience has been like? Because you've been there a year now. So what's been that for you?
I would say the separation is hard, because in everything you do on a stage, you bring yourself into it, correct? But the hardest part is like, we aren't accountants, we aren't architects. Who we are is what we do. So that separation is very difficult, and I don't want to separate those two things, but it does make the balance even harder, because I don't want people to see me as Dante who's Simba. I don't want people to say Simba's played by Dante. I want to see Dante as Dante who sometimes plays Simba. And that's hard, because we are here for one reason, and that's to play our characters. And we aren't allowed to do anything else besides that. That would at least bring us monetary gain. So
what do you mean you're not allowed to do anything else? What does that mean, you're not allowed to do anything else?
Our contract says that we can't do any outside work or gigs in Hong Kong.
Okay.
So, I mean, I feel like a loophole would be once the borders open, you could go to Macau and do a gig or two. But even still, like, I feel like that could be a little more dicey. So, as far as separating who you are from what you do, well, for the greater part of this year, we haven't been working. So there hasn't really been a need to. It's more of like are you guys working right now? Like, that's more of the conversation rather than like, it's so cool that you do that. So
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about it.
And what about you, Laura?
Yeah, I think a while ago I put in a post that I'm grateful that during this pandemic I've actually been able to work, because when I was at home, well, all around the world, like theatres are closed, everything's been shut down. So the fact that we were given this opportunity to be able to come here to actually do what we are gifted and called to do, without sounding too churchy, um, I'm I'm just taking everything in, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm so lucky, I'm so blessed, I'm so grateful that I'm able to do what I really enjoy. And you said it, I do that as well. Like, I put on my actor's hat when I'm on stage, obviously, my performing hat, and then when I come off, I'm just me, I'm just Laura. But then, as
Mm-hmm.
Dante would say, like, we are singers, we are actors, like, that's who we are, that's what we do. So when you go out and people say, "Oh, what do you do?" "Oh, yeah, I work at Disney." Sometimes I say it sheepishly, and other times I'm like, "Yes, I work at Disney." Oh, now I'm proud of what I do. But yeah, that's who I am, and that's what I do. So sometimes it is hard to separate, but I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
guess I just love it. So I'm proud of the fact that I'm a singer actress, and I'll tell people that's me.
Okay, well, very good. So that means even though it might be a stressful thing under the circumstances of the pandemic, it's also your release when you're on the stage and you're performing and you're making, which Disney does. It makes everybody happy. It makes everybody kind of forget about, what's outside the doors and the walls, you know what I mean, that's going on in, the country and around the world. Do you both find that um, even your audience is almost in a place like, please help us escape reality. Please help
Yeah,
us to, come to this place they can come and breathe and just forget about it all.
yeah. Yes. People write comments and they praise us highly about the show, because for them it is that the moment they come into that theatre, the doors close and we perform on stage for those 30 minutes, that's just a moment of relief. They're like, "Oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
finally something different. I don't have to worry about COVID. I don't have to worry about work. I don't have to worry about this. Just in this moment, I'm actually entertained, and I could just forget everything that's going on around me, and I can just let go and enjoy myself." And I feel the same
Mm-hmm.
as well when I'm performing. I'm like, "Whew, this is amazing." So yeah.
Now, you both have been performing for a long time. Laura, you said since you were 8. Dante, I already know since you were really like 5 and officially, what, 6 or 7 years old, we, had to, take you around and do things and stuff. Does it get, does it get old? What do you do to stay fresh for yourself in your craft? What do you both do?
Um, I would say for me, it's where it derives, and that has changed over the years. So once upon a time when I was much younger and with the Soul Children, it was more about the adventure, the getting on the bus and hanging out with my friends and going to these niche little corporate events in some nowhere city in Iowa for no apparent reason for the night, and then you come back and like, well, I did that. Now I got to go to school, and no one will ever know what was so cool about it. You know what I mean? And that was what was amazing then. And then the travel aspect got more serious on the boat. So like the singing part was like 25% of it, and 75% of it was the fact that I was waking up in Gibraltar one morning. The next day I was in Mykonos. Like it was mind blowing for me. So that was the cool thing. And then when I got to Disney, it all changed. It was always something bigger than myself that I never really got that repeated firsthand feedback. Because when I was at Kings Island, that was a bit. But then Disney's a different scale because people come to Disney for different reasons. So
Mm-hmm.
one particular experience I had when I was doing Disney Junior was there was a little girl who was battling brain cancer. And the
Mm.
year before that, she came and met Doc McStuffins, one of the Disney Channel characters. And obviously, there's not much conversation that can happen between a character and a child. But their interaction really boosted her up in a way that like healed her brain. For herself, it healed her brain. It gave her the gumption to go on. So now this following year, she came back and watched the show, and we did a special meet and greet with her. And the mother was explaining a story that basically they weren't sure how long she had. They kind of gave up a little bit. The doctors had given up, and then her trip to Disney, and between that and the constant like rebuilding of like reassurance to the family, and this one interaction with this one character saved this little girl's life. And then seeing her at the show, the girl's crying, mom's crying, I'm crying, Chris is crying, everybody's crying, and we're trying to hold together, but that professionalism kind of goes out the door because you're still human. This person is a human being. So now for me, if I do the same show 20,000 times over and over again for the next 5 years, if one person's life was affected at the end of that 5 years, and it was all worth it. Like it's these little interactions, not the grand scale. I could sing to 17 million people in a single broadcast. That's cool, but I care more about that person who was not doing that great, saw the performance and said, okay, maybe I should give it a second try. Maybe I shouldn't just give up so easily. For that few moments, I can give somebody something tangible. I'm not a doctor, but I can give them the medicine that they didn't know they needed, because that's what I get from artists as well, watching her perform and working so closely with other talented people who kind of have the same like derivative mindset. Like this is more than just myself. This is about us, and it's about us. It's about us. It's about us and the world. It's about all of us. So yeah, it's definitely changed for me. So that was long.
That's a great perspective to have. Laura, have you had an experience in performing and in your craft that is a memory for you, for someone that, I mean, you do what you do because you love what you do, but what experience, or can you tell us about one where it's like it did something for you or did something as a memory to you that you'll never forget?
I can't think of anything specific, but you can see the audience in our theatre and you can see the joy and excitement on their faces. Sometimes the adults are more excited than the children. But either way, the fact that they are there to enjoy themselves, some of them, they're super fans, they know the choreographies, you see them dancing along, you see like the kids.
Wait, you said super fans? What's a super fan?
They absolutely love The Lion King, and
they're there.
Yes, they're there. You will probably see the same person at all 4 shows, sitting in the same seat. Yes.
They are season ticket holders, or they come every day? You said all 4 shows. You guys do 4 shows a day?
There are 4 shows a day. We don't always do all 4. We usually do 2.
Okay,
yes.
I got you. So let's shift gears just a little bit. If you had to address, the up and comings, the next prospects of, actors and singers and performers, what would you advise them to do, Laura? And then Dante, what has been your biggest challenge that you can give them advice on for what you've learned from it? So Laura first.
What I always tell people that want to get into this business, into this industry, is that you have to invest. It is a big investment. You have to be ready to pay the £300 for the headshots, for the show and the actor's reel. If you want to better your craft, you're going to have to take those acting classes or those singing classes just to get to where you need to be. It's a very cutthroat industry, and if you haven't got it, or if you're not willing to work on it, like, don't expect it all to land in your lap. It's taken me, I'd say, a good 10 years. I left university in 2009. 2009, I left uni. But I kind of took a break because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my degree, which is in drama. And then when I really said, you know what, this is what I want to do, I had to work. I had to do so many free gigs, so many free performances, and spend months rehearsing whilst working full time, touring, going up and down the country. So if you want this to be your bread and butter and be in it for the long haul, not just for 15 minutes, you have to really work and put the work in. And have a passion and a drive for it. I think some people, they glamorize us. They see this as an amazing thing that we do, but they don't realize how much work goes behind the scenes. And that can make or break you, because there's been so many no's. So I actually auditioned for this job twice, and I didn't hear anything the first time. And then obviously here we are now, the second time round. So you have to be ready for the rejection, for the early morning auditions, the sleepless nights, and just be willing and ready to put the work in.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
the biggest challenge that I still have to overcome is myself. You are generally your own worst enemy in almost every single situation. And for me, it's the fact that I have these strange fears, these hesitancies that really do hold me back from everything else. And one of those biggest ones is the fact that whilst I love what I do and I pursue it with all of myself, is that I still have this like fear of rejection. Even though when I'm on stage, I'm rarely rejected. Like that's not it. But it's that get up and go. Well, Dante, you've written a song, finish it. But that finish it never comes. It's because I'm afraid of like once I do finish it, people like it. Will it be something that they want to hear? So my best advice would be stop thinking and just do it. Like everyone that I love in this industry that may be at our level or higher or lower, it doesn't matter. I respect the people who just do it because they don't care about the fact that they're not going to get 20,000 likes on every post. They don't care about the fact that it might not be seen. They just keep putting it out there. The little girl that I came across when I was at Disney World, she has a mental disability, I do believe, but that inhibits her from becoming a full-on performer, so the world would say. But every day she posts a video, and they're not bad. Like she's very, very good. And I'm like, the only person that's stopping this is I guess her surroundings telling her that she can't, because if she goes to the auditions when she's old enough, she'll work. She's good. She's got a pretty face and she's got the voice. Like she's got the aesthetics and the bones of what she needs. So now it's now the world's choice to like bring her in and like put her on a platform or not. But that's that drive to just keep putting it out there because that's her catharsis. That's her outlet. I'm like, that's cool. You don't need to be on the stage. You don't need that. But yeah, I think it's that.
Okay. Now, at the end of the show, I'm going to ask you both to take like 1 minute. And I'm saying this to you now because I want you to start thinking about it. But I'm going to give each of you like a minute and a half. And I want you to really address people for your experience being abroad and what motivates you and how you want to really just kind of give people insight being from another country, you know what I mean? And what's life like for you. But before we get there, the pandemic COVID-19 is everywhere. And coronavirus is wreaking havoc everywhere. And now in some countries, even here in the States, it is even though a lot of people are vaccinated, we're not quite at the herd immunity thing. Is that something they talk about with you guys there? Is there even conversation, news? What do you get in reference to how it's affecting you all there? And what is your take on what you see from Hong Kong to your own countries? What is your take?
Well, first of all, as far as like what's being told, we don't know. We don't really get access. Like, I mean, we don't look for the news. We sort of get like a trickle down effect. So when it's something that's big that's going to affect us, we usually find out through Disney, or actually not through Disney. But there are certain cast members amongst our little expat group that really pay attention to all this stuff. So I kind of just leave it to them. If it's important, they'll post about it, and if it's not important, we don't care. So when we're opening a travel bubble in Singapore, that was posted in the group. That's good news because I want to go to Singapore. That sounds like a good time. As far as like the little like updates and the little tiffs and riffs and breakouts and things like that, we're not really that informed about it because I'm not that invested in the news. My cable's been disconnected since the day I got here. I don't watch what's happening here. I care more about what's happening at home. We'll circle back around to some of the other questions. We'll just kick it back.
Okay.
Well, this is something that we both talk about a lot. That's a big discrepancy in what we hear in the world and what we hear here versus what's actually applied. And that is the fact that in our respective countries, our modes of transportation are individual. We have our own cars. We have our own sort of world. So in a typical day, I'll leave my house in my car from my garage, go into a grocery store such as Walmart. Even though Walmart is a big place, there's space. You don't get that close to people. There's not much room. You really could stay 6 feet away from someone your entire time in most places in the States. But here, public transportation is the only way we can get around. So you can get into a tube or a train and you're packed in like sardines. You literally, there have been times where I'm like, I have to stand like this for the entirety because I can't move my hands at all because that's how tightly packed we are. And I'm thinking in my head, how is it that this country has such a low transmission rate? Hong Kong, not anywhere else. I can't speak for anywhere else, but Hong Kong, our cases are so low. But social distancing is not a thing. They try to enforce it in places, but it's just not a thing. They put little plastic shields in restaurants because that's going to stop it. But these little things, I'm like, how is this? How are these little practices? And I think it just boils down to wearing a stupid thing on your face. As much as we don't like it, and as annoying as it is, they love the mask. And it's been a part of the Hong Kong, the Chinese culture, Asian culture, since SARS. Yeah, it was SARS that really, really initiated it. But even if people here have a cold, they mask up. If they have a flu, they mask up. Because your day doesn't stop. Your world can't stop.
Wow.
So it's not this whole like individuality. It's more of a common idea.
So you all, from your perspective of being there, and you said, mask is like, I guess, a norm for them, and they understand, obviously its ability to really protect, because if the density is like it is with the people, they've got to be finding something that works. So when you all see, I'm just going to talk to you, Dante, because I don't know. Well, you can talk to me about how people in the UK are responding to something as simple as a mask. It's the most difficult and challenging thing here in the States that it's insane. So, Laura, you jump in on this one. Is it the same for the people in the UK?
It is. We've had people like protest to not wear the mask. They think it's a silly idea. They don't see the purpose and the reason behind it. At the end of the day, you're protecting yourself. So I don't understand why you wouldn't want to protect yourself and make sure that you're safe. It really does blow my mind that people are adamant that it's not a good thing and all that kind of stuff. So now my parents are vulnerable. So before I left, I made sure that I had to make sure that I was okay to keep coming in and out of the house because I didn't want to affect them. And obviously I didn't want to be affected either. So you got some people that there are extremists, some people that think it's a waste of time and it doesn't make any sense. And then you've got others that are adamant, they won't even leave their house. They're making sure that they are protected and those around them are protected.
Well, let me challenge the two of you right here. And the fact that you're young people, and when I say young, because for me, you young. Okay, Dante being my child, I know your age. Laura, I will not ask you your age
I don't mind saying
at
because
all.
I don't know my age.
So we would be like this and let that be. Um, and this is on a serious note, for real, for real. Being away from home, I know that's tough. Being in another country is a different kind of tough because of the pandemic. You can't, like you said, just jump on a plane and go home for a weekend and just kind of, de-stress and detox from, the world of what is expected of you on your job in the types of positions that both of you hold. You're highly regarded because you both said that, so you don't have that place to go and de-stress, detox, and just decompress away from it. Do you find that being abroad mentally is harder than if you were, let's just say, on a contract within your prospective countries? You know what I mean? And just can't come home because that's just a demand of the job. But when you can't come home because the country says you can't leave or you can't go into another country, mentally talk to us about that, because that ain't even an option to get in a car for either one of you.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah.
I've always said I'm a rare anomaly. I enjoy being away from home. I love my parents to bits, I do, but I enjoy being in my own space and doing me in my own environment. Um, so for me, honestly, it's not been that tough. It's not
Okay.
been too bad. Um, Obviously, there are days. I think everyone at home is missing me more than I'm missing them, and they kind of know I'm a little unto myself. I like to do my own thing, so everyone kind of knows that I'm okay and I'm safe, and I think that gives them the reassurance that I'm fine and I'm doing okay. Um, I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with this?
Um, your own bird.
Yes, I completely forgot what I was talking
You look like
about.
you're stuck in a moment. I'm like, are they moving? Oh, that was funny. That was very funny. Dante like, hi, hey, hey. But Dante, you and I, right, right. You and I have talked about this, that when you're a people person, and Laura, I know you're a people person, but you like your independence, obviously. And you're one of those people, you get along and make it do what it do. Um, and so Dante, we've talked, like I said, we've talked about it, the stresses, because, you're a people person. You want to hug people, touch people, and just kind of be with, the ones who are your support. How is this affecting you, being that you can't, like I said, just jump on a plane and come home or go on a vacation to get away? Talk to us about what that is for you and what's your process of dealing with it.
um, well, so the love languages are what they are, right? But my biggest one is touch and quality time. So with this one, I didn't even realize he doesn't like to be touched, but now we love each other. And so it is very weird because in this culture, touching is not normal. Even when I hug my friends that we work with or anything, it feels like I'm hugging like a mannequin. There's not much
Okay.
there's no transference of energy. Yeah, it's just sort of like, oh,
It's not reciprocal.
no, it's not, and it's not because they're uncomfortable. It's just not a thing that happens. So
Hmm.
it is weird on that front. But then another thing is that familiarity. Even though we know each other quite well, there's still things that we are learning about each other on a daily basis. And I used to say this to Kelly, one of my best friends back home. I get tired of having to like meet new people and then go through this process over and over and over and over. So as far as me dealing with being away this long, I think it's just now at a point where I'm just like, no, I'm just tired and I'm exhausted of having to do this whole, all right, Dante, let's go out, let's meet some new people, and then you're gonna be tired, and then you have to like recharge for another couple days, and then
Mm.
it's this sort of cycle of being like, in order for me to be myself, I have to not be myself, because I would love to just be able to not have to explain my culture, and sometimes people say stupid things like, "Oh, you're so American." I'm like, I'm sorry,
Oh
I guess so.
wow.
I don't know what else I'm supposed to say to that. Like, I guess I am. And here it's like the form of a joke is the attack, which is different.
Wow.
Like we're very sarcastic as a culture, but instead of like one of the audio people who gets us set up, was it the day we were all leaving? She was just like, yeah, well, you are quite fat, and I was like,
Wow. So what
yeah,
comes up comes out, and that's just it.
but then
Yeah.
it's also translation.
Yeah.
It's more than just them saying like, haha, funny, funny. I don't think they realize culturally what saying that to someone does. Like,
Uh-huh.
or they do, or it's just so common here that it's become a funny haha. Because the
Wow. Really?
culture is
So
very like,
would you both say that the cultural barriers or differences obviously can be challenging? How do you have conversations with each other to find the balance or some level of equilibrium? Or do you even talk about it?
when you say with each other, you mean like with us or with
No,
the world?
in your community of other people who are saying what you all were saying, they said out loud, you know, how do you are there times when you all sit down and conversate about like that's not cool? Or, you know, we don't say that. That's not a good thing to say or to do. Because I know that there are some cultural things that are acceptable and not acceptable there in Hong Kong from male to female. So, you know what I mean? Like women can only do some things or wear some things or be certain places. And, same thing with being a foreigner there in any country, but since you guys are in Hong Kong. So are there opportunities where you all get to sit down and talk about these cultural differences and learn each other to find that's what I mean, equal, balanced conversations like don't say that we can't talk like that with certain people. How do you all handle that?
I think it comes down to the relationship you have with that particular person. I like to believe I'm a very funny person. And sometimes like the joke doesn't always land. And it's like, okay, I know that was funny, but if that just clean went over your head because what you said, then having to translate it for it to make sense to them, and then obviously it gets lost in
Oh
translation.
wow. Okay.
So
Okay.
yes, and obviously language English is taught here from a very early age, so the majority do speak English. Some say not very well, but it's enough to get by. They can have a conversation with you, and then you just politely correct them if they say something or use a word in the wrong context, or like as Dante was saying, if they say something very blunt and out forthright, you just have to say, that's not okay. Like
Oh
that's
wow.
not.
Okay.
Strange.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
Okay.
amongst us, we vent about this a lot. It is a thing that is a common conversation for all of the expats. Is this constant tug of war of being like, we do like it here, but dot 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 dot. It could be
Okay.
whatever it is today. For me, it's the PDA on the escalator. It's the literally like. But they have on the mask, so kiss with the mask on. It is a very like it's a riveting experience, a revolting. But it is different, and for us, I guess the thing for us is that we aren't all from the same culture, and even amongst the other Americans, we ain't from the same culture. We have someone from California, 2 people from South Florida, and me from Chicago, and that's just our cast. I have no idea where Jay is from. I want to say it's like South Carolina or something like that.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Anyway. But then you have all these different people that are from the same place. We don't exactly always click on the same things because that little bit of geographical difference makes a world of difference. The Americans versus the English versus South Africans, it's a different story altogether because that's a different culture. It's a different mindset. It's a different pride in who you are. So for us, the only commonality is our cultural difference against the natural people of Hong Kong. And so it becomes the funny joke of being like, oh, they don't get it, or blah, 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 or they said this, or you'll get used to the fact that they will call you fat in your fittings, even though you gained or lost most weight. And that becomes another thing. Like it's the comments on the things that we don't comment on is strange, such as once I had someone say to me, wow, Black people just shape differently, aren't they? And I'm like, that's
rude.
In what world can you say? I know you meant that as a compliment, but you can't compliment like that. It's not how that works. You should probably figure out how to say it. My entire life, I've never really hung out with Black people or have like more of an inquisitive or informative conversation rather than being so silly with the comment. Because again, just because someone spoke English their entire life doesn't mean you get the nuance of the language. So that cultural joking sarcasm is not something you can teach. It is something that you just have to know. And you gotta be careful with it. I'm learning my levels of sarcasm with her versus Christina versus Phil versus Nyauza, like different people. You have to filter it with how you want to say it. And sorry, those are all people that are cast. But you have to filter how you say certain things as those jokes because no matter what, we know that you can be perceived, and it's about the perception, not the delivery. So we know to be careful about that because we were taught to be careful about that. But here, it's more of like I said it, now you get to deal with it.
Wow. So do you find yourselves, because of this, do you find yourselves kind of have to go, whoo, they don't understand. I can't say what I really want to say, handle it like I really want to handle it, and then be accused of being, oh, you're so Black. You know what I mean? Or do you find yourself in those positions?
Daily.
Yes, I've just kind of learned not to take it personally. I just say, okay, they didn't quite understand that that's not all right. So yeah.
It's just that simple.
Yeah.
It's just kind of.
So is some of this like a passive aggressive way of coming at you because you're Black or what?
Yes. It's not about being Black. However, being Black in Asia is weird because the culture praises whiteness. It praises pale. It praises porcelain. It wants the whitest form of skin that you can be. And the whiter you are, the higher up in status you are, because it means you don't have to work outside. It means you can work indoors or you don't work at all, which is why being skinny is also so special because it shows that you don't have to do anything. However, in most other cultures, being bigger is what you strive for. So being dark and in a place where working hard is not the praised norm. Like obviously they want you to work. That's a good thing. But it's the type of job that you get. You don't want to be a laborer. You want to be white collar. So a lot of things, the aggression or microaggressions that we receive here goes so much deeper than them just being like, we don't like Black people. It's culturally ingrained to not like dark skin. So as far as like if dating goes, dating a local here would be very difficult because their entire lives they've been told not to trust Black people because of whatever reason it might be. And one of the reasons I was told when I was about to go on a date. We actually never went on a date because of this comment. But she said to me, I was like, what is it with this place and why don't they like black people? And what's like the thing against like dark folks? And she's like, it's because we're taught and shown that black people bring crime to Hong Kong. When people come in from
Wow.
Africa, they bring crime, they bring diseases, and that's not something that like they don't know that I'm not from Africa. They just see my dark skin and they avoid me. They'll get up on the train, you sit down, they'll get up and move from their seat. We talk too loud, we laugh too loud, they'll get up and move away. Because the culture here is to blend in, be quiet, and don't stand out, and be the same. Do what everyone else is doing. Don't go against the current. And even their own people, and you have too many tattoos. If you wear a skirt that's too short, if you express yourself a little too loudly, you're shunned. So because of who we are, we get a lot of microaggressions, such as yesterday when I went to a restaurant, I didn't get water. The two little Chinese girls that sat down next to me, they were jug of water, 2 glasses, menu, waiting for them to decide if they wanted drinks or not. They got the full service. But I sat there for 15 minutes before I had to flag somebody down to come over and talk to me. So it's little things like that that we would normally call out at home and be like, excuse me, what? They get this, like, excuse me. But here it's not even worth that argument because you know what it is. And it's not anything against you. It's just more of the praising of them. So
Does that make your job hard? Does that make living abroad difficult?
Separately. Those are separate things. So our job, they praise us for our blackness at work. That's the only time that it's truly respected.
Wow.
And then outside of that, it's rejected. So living abroad is a struggle, but working is the delight.
Okay. Okay.
Stop talking.
Laura, got the same experience you've had? Because you said you have an infectious laugh. And it's obviously something that's very hearty for you. So Dante said about being loud, and anytime we laugh, of course we can be a little loud when we do that. Do you find people kind of go give you that look?
Oh yes, we get looks. I think when we first came, we noticed it. We were just talking normally on the train, and obviously I laughed, and literally everyone was. Shh. They all just looked at us, and I was like,
You know that scene in Get Out when he goes upstairs, he goes up the stairs, and all the people are talking and just go. That's what it feels like. Our existence just gets a.
Wow.
A quiet zone. Like literally nobody talks, nobody has conversation, and then they just talk quietly in general. But we're loud and we're boisterous, and if something's funny, we want people to know, we're having a good time. With them, it's a complete opposite.
Yeah.
A complete opposite. It's almost like that be seen and not heard mentality. Like they're not allowed to have fun. It's really, honestly, it's really strange. It's really strange.
Because that's what I was going to ask you both. So does that make you feel like you need to be seen and not heard? Because, like you said, they want everybody to be more subdued or, low key. I don't know what the word would be, but do you find yourself tiptoeing out, when you're out amongst in the community, out in Hong Kong, moving around, do you find yourself conscious of how you're moving about?
With all abroad travel, I feel like you're always aware because you don't want to ruffle feathers unnecessarily. So I'm not going to go in and purposely be loud and be grabbing more attention than I need whenever I go anywhere around here because that's just unnecessary, and I don't want to draw unnecessary attention when it's not due. That's literally our job to have all eyes on us. I'm not at work. I don't. That being said, though, I think because of who we are, we have a unique opportunity to sort of beam our energy and beam our light. So for me, I love the fact that we're different and the fact that they stay because then when we're out and about, like a lot of times people at first will be like hesitant or cautious, and then by the end of the time, wherever we are, everyone wants to be our friend. Whenever we go to the bar,
Okay.
sit down, we chat or talking or whatever, and then like eventually we can break down that barrier with the bartender or with the waiter, and then by the end they're like shots, and you're like, hey. It does sort of, it gives you each interaction gives you an opportunity to show your light, your love, or however you want to look at it. And so while those train interactions or the microaggressions, those aren't the opportunities, but a smile is, and that's the issue that I'm having with masks, and which is why I spent the money that I did for a transparent mask, is that a smile goes a long way when you can't say anything to someone. So when you see a little kid and they're freaking out because they've never seen a dark person before, that smile makes them go, maybe he's not so bad. He looks different, but he didn't smile at me. So I don't see what the issue is. So those little moments matter a lot. And the biggest thing for us is the other shunned sort of cultures, the Filipinos. They're the black folks of the East. Like they get the same crap that we got. They were conquered. They get brought to other places that treat like that. We're still in a country where they are indentured servants for the most part. It's not the same kind of contract, but they live in the house. They clean up. They take care of the kids while the parents are off doing God knows what. It's a very, for us, archaic way of living, but for them, that's the culture. So we bond well with the Filipinos because they've had a similar struggle and they idealize our cultures, like being black, with a respect almost. It's much more respected rather than like the re-emulation without the need for us. The Filipinos want to be our friends. The Indian people want to be our friends. The other dark people want to be friends with us. But then the other side of that is, oh, we want rap, but we don't want you. We have our own rap. Thank you very much. So it's not the rejection of us, but the acceptance of our culture amongst the other ground.
Okay. So would you recommend this to someone that's trying to break into the field? Would you suggest being on this journey, on this road, traveling and singing and performing abroad? Would you recommend it to anyone?
Definitely, that's the only way you're going to learn about the world is by traveling, and I think that's why here, and not just necessarily here, but in some other countries, why people don't, or they can't interact with us because they've never been outside of their little community. So I would definitely encourage. I tell people all the time, like, take the opportunity. Like, I've been very fortunate. A lot of my acting gigs have been abroad, and some of the countries I have never been before. So use that as a learning tool, and also what I say, use yourself as an example. That's not the word I'm looking for. But yes, just make it a learning experience for everybody. So I was listening to a podcast, and this black lady was saying that before the pandemic, she frequently went to China, and she used to get a lot of people wanting to touch her hair. Some of them used to be afraid of her because, you know, they don't see black people all the time, or they wanted to take pictures of her. And she turned it into a learning experience for them. Now, when she goes over to like a specific area, people have more respect for her. She allowed them to touch her hair, because obviously that's a big thing for us, that nobody touches their hair. But if they've never seen anyone like me, why am I going to come up and be so defensive? Let me use this time to educate you. And likewise, the same for me. I don't know a lot about Chinese culture. The other day, I was asking someone in our cast, I was like, you know, when you listen to the briefing, because they did a briefing in English and Cantonese. So when you're listening to the briefing, like, what do you understand more? It's just like, I listen to the English, and then when they say it in Cantonese, I'm like, okay, I understood everything that was said, or they just double check to make sure they heard everything correctly. And then also I was watching her read, and they read from right to left, but everything is down, but the characters go down, they don't read across. So I was really curious, and she took that time to educate me, and she didn't get defensive. She wasn't offended. She was like, if you have any more questions, like, please ask. And that's what we should be doing. Like, I shouldn't just look at you and be like, oh, I don't want to know anything about you. I should be like, you're different. Let me learn more. So yeah, I would definitely encourage people to travel and just to experience life There's more than just the little town that you're in, and more than what you just see on the TV. Because you want to get a certain perspective on TV. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and you,
It's
Dante?
100%. Even if it's, well, obviously monetarily, don't do anything that's going to put you in a worse off position. But as far as experience points goes, I would say take every possible thing that you feel that draw towards. If you have two contracts and one of them is to be a teller at a bank or another to be the roadie cable gatherer on a show, but you want to be a singer, I would gather cables all day. I don't care who the show is for. I don't care if it's for Dinosaurs Alive. I don't care what it's for. But that experience being on the road would be such a much more fruitful experience for me because those connections are boundless. So it's more in my life, even like with Ori Marcus, my casting director from Celebrity. She's no longer working with Celebrity. I don't think she's working at all. She's had a baby. So I can call her right now and be like, hey, I'm having an issue with this in my career. Like, can you talk to me a little bit? She would talk to me. She would sit down and talk to me because that's who she is. But that connection was forged over years of committed service to one another. I was there for her. She was there for me. And that we tried our best to make sure neither one of us was ever let down. Same with my casting directors at Disney World. And now they're trying to build that connection with my casting director here. Is that those connections don't need to be shallow. You can actually have connections with people just because they're in a different position that's higher up than you. And yes, they hired you. They're still human beings. We see Jen around all the time. When we go out, she'll be, hey! She's just like us. Oh my gosh, who knew that she was a human being? So it is a respect and a pull. But as far as seeing the world goes, until I went to Russia, I thought Russia was this yellowish, sort of gray world where everyone just was so rejective of everyone else's culture, and they slapped bears in the face and sculled every bottle of tequila of vodka they could. But instead, they kind of love our culture. While they're weird about our skin tone, it's more of like a cat trying to figure out if they want to touch something. It's a slow approach, but once they cozy up to it, they're like, oh my God, wait, this is amazing. And I would have never known that if I never went to St. Petersburg. So it's bridging that gap of being like, well, maybe the world isn't so bad. Maybe I should go to Turkey, or maybe I should go to the Middle East, because maybe what we've seen of them isn't what it actually is. Maybe if I leave my comfort zone, I could learn something, and I could be blessed to be that blessing, the teachable moment. So I would never reject an opportunity to leave and do anything. And I feel like it's the exact opposite of what we're taught, is to take that instability versus the stability.
Very good. Part of what we're motivated here at Moving Matters is to always be an inspiration to somebody else by bringing people on like yourselves, who are doing inspiring things, and you're thinking outside the box, you're moving outside the box, and even as performers, as singers and actors of what you do, you're doing it in a creative space, and that is appreciated. So each one of you, I want you to just take 60 seconds and just address it from who you are and what you want to say to someone that could be watching, just to motivate them to make a move. You know what I mean? They may have to do it fearful or whatever. So it doesn't matter which one of you go first, but take about 60 seconds and just talk to the people and, give them an inspirational message from you and your experience.
So a while ago, I was talking to somebody else in the industry, and I won't repeat verbatim what they said. I'll change one of the words. But they said to me to face the fear and go for it. So before being a performer, I worked in education. I was a support teacher in primary schools. And I love that job with my whole heart. Like on the side, I still do it between gigs. And it came to a point where I started to dislike the job, and I hated going to work. And I was like, there's got to be more than this. I know that I've been given this amazing talent, and I need to start utilizing it. And I think a lot of the time we put ourselves down and we're afraid, and that fear of rejection, so we won't go for things. But you literally just have to take that first step. They always say great things are outside of your comfort zone, and we get so comfortable. I could have stayed in education and been miserable. I wouldn't be here in Hong Kong. I would have never been to Australia. Wouldn't have toured parts of Europe. So you just have to go for it, as scary and as hard as it is. Steve Harvey wrote a book. I forgot the full title. I think it was Jump. I guess it's called Jump. And he was just talking about the same thing I was just saying. Just go for it. And you literally have to. If you want to be an artist, start doing little sketches. Start drawing. If you want to be a singer, like I said, take those lessons. If you want to be an accountant, do that course. Whatever it is that you want to do, go for it. Because you, at the end of the day, you're just holding yourself back, and you don't know how amazing you can be. That famous quote, "Our deepest fear." What's the full thing? Our deepest fear is that we are inadequate, and we put ourselves down unnecessarily. So just whatever it is that you want to do, just go for it. Take that leap of faith and just step out and say, you know what? Nobody else, the world, they may not understand what it is that I want to do. But as long as you know and you're secure and you're confident in yourself, just go for it. Just go for it.
Excellent. Excellent. Mr. Dante.
Yeah, that. I would say, in the face of everything that's happening right now, every little thing is a big thing. So one thing that I've learned is not to just keep looking for the next big thing. I don't need to try to be selling out a stadium tomorrow. That's not the gig. That's not the path that I'm on. But rather, it's the little chips away at the marble to finally get the sculpture going somewhere. Rather than trying to, like you and Dad taught me, you can't eat an elephant in a single bite. You have to take the little chunks as you go, because otherwise you literally will always be overwhelmed and you'll never get anything done because you'll be too busy trying to figure out how you're going to do it rather than just doing it. And my biggest regret, I would say, in my career is not thinking like that sooner. The sooner you get your mind around that leap and that jump into it, it opens up every door. That who cares what you say about me? I really don't care. That idea of the girl on the Instagram, or the little girl who literally fixed herself when it came to her brain cancer. All these little things of being like, I can do this. Why am I not doing this? This is something that I'm capable of doing. Because you can. Literally anyone can do anything if you just do it. I'm not a ballerina, but I bet if I tried hard enough, I could go somewhere with it. I may not be the prima ballerina of any company, but I could definitely probably work somewhere. It is a very strange thing, because our entire lives we're taught to get married and have kids and be safe and secure and do things the way that your parents did it and do things the way that the world told you to do and the way you see it in the movies. But then those people that we care about, the Princes, the Madonnas, the Whitneys, they didn't do it the way they were told to do it. They did it exactly the wrong way. They did it the every turn they could have made that would have been right, they went left. And they made all these shut that worked out. Every chance they could have made their choice to greatness, they made that choice for greatness at risk of everything being lost. And some people lose everything. And I respect it more than I respect the people who are successful. So I would encourage anyone to go against the grain. Hit the sandpaper instead of the glass. Like, it's okay to hurt. It's okay to bleed, because those scars now make you more interesting when you step into the world's light. And they're like, why do I like this person so much? Oh, because they're just like me. So I don't want to have to find out that I'm dying. I don't want to have to find out that I'm losing my house. I don't want to have to lose my job. I want to make the choice today to step into the person that I am, rather than trying to become this person that I want to be.
Mm, excellent, both of you. Listen, I can probably go on for a lot longer with the two of you because you're not just incredible human beings. You are gifted, you are talented. Yes, you are black, but you're so much more than that. And I say to both of you, I salute you as human beings. I salute you as going for it. I salute you because you're making a difference and you're doing it in such a great way that it matters to the rest of us to even watch your journey. So thank you both. I mean, when I say this, I really mean it. Thank you both for giving us time today and just going along with this journey in this episode of, being young, gifted, and black. But most of all, I'm motivated by the two of you, by this your inspirational statements you both just put out there. Even as a old lady, this was, moving matters was something that I was afraid to do. Yeah, I'm an old lady. I said it, but I'm a good-looking old lady.
Yeah.
Move
I
on.
am.
Moving on to the things that matter.
It matters to me. It matters to me. But listen, seriously, moving matters. This show would not have been if I had have allowed my fear to rule what I do. Thank you both that you didn't allow your fears or your hesitations, your doubts, or even being rejected or the possibility of being rejected to stop you. And that's the note I want to conclude this show on. And that is this. Even if you've got to move in fear, get in motion, be in motion, make a move, take a step. You're going to be fine. Even if it falters a little bit, you can get up. Even if every attempt you've made to this point has failed, that next one could be the one that makes the move that can make it great for you. And it doesn't matter about your age. We can all be young at heart. We're all talented to do something, and we can all make moves. And even if you never cross the ocean, you can still be abroad because now, I mean, I'm overseas with them right now, and I don't have to use my passport. I just had to click on the link and get on. And so for the both of you, thank you so much that you allowed us to come into your space and sharing your journey with us. We are going to have you guys back on the show again. And I'm going to dig into some, you were a school teacher and now you are an actor and a singer. I'm going to talk to you, Miss Laura, as a woman on the move, making moves. And what's next for Laura? I'm gonna have you. We're gonna do that. Oh yes, we are. And of course, Dante, you know already what's up. You got some great music out there that you've done covers for. You got some great stuff, that is out there on your YouTube and your Instagram. I want both of you for about 5 seconds. Give us where people can follow you and find you. Laura, you first. Where can we find you on the social world?
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is laura.autumnray, Laura.autumnrai. And Twitter is the same, Laura_autumnray.
And
Awesome.
I am on the Instagram and the full name is this. It's just Dante Jamal. And that's that. And YouTube, just search my name. I think I'm pretty sure I'm still the only person that comes up. Just Dante Payne, Dante Jamal Payne, Dante J Payne, Dante. I'll come up. I would love for everybody to follow us because it's the easiest way to like we said, travel the world. So follow us. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to chat about what's actually going on in our day-to-day lives. And if you ever
Absolutely.
Ring a ding ding.
Well, when the world opens up, I'm jumping on a plane because I want to see you all do what you do. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I think we're getting closer than ever before. And so we're grateful for that. We are grateful for the two of you. Thank you for making this move with me today. And so, to our audience, you all already know what to do. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. If you are on Facebook, it's Moving Matters Nation. You can go to the page or the group. And if you're on Instagram, it's Moving Matters. We all things moving. MOVIN matters. All right. And also our webpage. Send us your comments and let us know what your thoughts are, even from today's show, or thoughts you may have about subjects or topics that you want to hear on the show. Moving Matters. Thank you both again. This has been incredible. Yes. Love you, love you, love you so much. God bless you
Bye.
all. Stay great.
And we're clear.
Yeah.